members. And so tonight's agenda is all about just bringing an update to what's going on throughout the year, and then get set up for the next series of meetings and reviewing the budget. But before we start, I'd just like to do introductions around the audience here. Or have a microphone come around and just do an update.
So the person turning on the mics right now is Chuck, and Chuck is with our IT department, and all you need to know is just the name Chuck, and Chuck solves lots of problems here at the county. Yep. When I know Chuck is behind a door, I always feel more comfortable.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Is there anything particular other than just name?
All right, great idea. Just your name, what budget committee. In fact, I should put up here. Let me back up first. So the agenda tonight, some things we'll talk about. And then these are the current committee members currently. So, we have 3 distinct committees. So we have the Washington County and Service District for Lighting Number 1 committee, and the ESPD Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, and Urban Road Maintenance Districts, URMD, and then the North Bethany County Service District for Roads Budget Committee. And so with that, Nicholas, if you can lead us off, just kind of a little bit about yourself.
Can we do housekeeping real quick before we start? Thank you for that note. Do we have Zoom on?
Zoom is on. We are recording. I think we're also have the room turned on as well for audio, so everyone on Zoom should be able to hear us.
Okay. And has any budget committee members joined by Zoom?
Not currently.
Okay, so Brett, it'd be helpful just for those in this room, and just so that we all gather as budget committee members, once someone joins, if you can just, no matter where we're at, just feel free to say, let me just let you know that X person joined.
Absolutely. We do have Commissioner Fye who joined in online, but I think we are waiting on a budget committee member to still join.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, so thank you, and I'm going to actually introduce Brett for the group. Brett is one of our board clerks, Brett Hodges, and is new to the county, and so this is actually Brett's first experience with budget committee too. So for some of us, we all have training wheels on, and sometimes we all need to grow our training wheels too. So thank you, Brett. Learning together. And when you introduce yourself, as John indicated, one of the things that I've heard great feedback about, well, feel free to stand up. Sorry, it's, once I start talking, you'll learn this about me. Sometimes I don't stop. I get so excited. And let me start by just introducing myself. I'm Tanya Angie. I'm the county administrator for Washington County. Just thank you so much for being here. And so I get to be in service with all of you through this process. And I'll share why a budget is important to me. And so for you, maybe why is a budget important to you, and or why did you join budget committee for Washington County? That way we can kind of get to know each other a bit better. So for me, I have had many years in public service, and the budget serves as an important policy guide, guiding a local government, and to me it helps provide that direction. We use taxpayer dollars to provide services here each and every day. And that responsibility that budget committee has, and you listening to the discussions, doing a lot of reading, just let you know, and hearing the presentations and making your recommendations is really an amazing process. Here in Oregon, I've worked in 2 other states, Minnesota and Colorado. I will say it's unique in Oregon that there's a combination of elected officials and community sitting at the same table making recommendations. And that is really powerful because it is your dollars that we are putting in action here each and every day. Part of my role that I enjoy is I see my job as being a steward of democracy in service to the Board of Commissioners, but really ultimately each and every community member here. So I'll turn it to you.
Before we do that, Sarah Bucci, has joined the room for North Bethany. And I do know this is a public meeting, so we will need to do a roll call. I don't know if you want to do that after introductions or before.
For this meeting, we need to do a roll
Perfect.
call. Okay, please start.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicholas Tenorio. I'm recently moved to Sherwood, Oregon with my family, which has to do with why I'm interested in participating in the committee here. I have three young boys, 4, 3, and almost 2. So very interested in participating in the community and being involved and help shaping their future. But also public service is important. I've spent my career thus far in public service, starting off in the Peace Corps, up to most recently, I work for the Oregon State Fire Marshal, and that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Snyder. I'm a county commissioner, District 3, and welcome to Sherwood, if that's a new home to you. And I appreciate the budget because it is truly our documentation and implementation of our priorities, and really showing why we're doing what we're doing and what it is we are doing.
Jerry Willie, Washington County Commissioner, District 4, what he said, I agree.
Jerry is recovering from back surgery, too. So he looked at me and said, do I have to get up? I said, no. I'm Pam Trace, District 2 Commissioner, and this is my 8th budget year. And it's amazing how much I have learned and how much our budget has changed, grown, and gotten more effective in being the tool that does demonstrate what our priorities are. And I just want to say thank you very much to all of you that are participating. It takes all of us to do this, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Philip Ransford, he, him pronouns communications officer in the County Administrative Office, and I share several of the comments I've heard. In my role, I am trying to enable more than all of you, all of your neighbors, anyone who will listen to us, enable them to know what we're doing with the taxpayers' dollars. That's what I'm trying to help with all the people that you're going to hear from at this session. So I'm looking forward. This will be my 22nd budget here. Looking forward to doing that one more time. Well, maybe 2.
Hint, Philip is towards the sunset of his career, so that was his informal retirement notice.
Get a few more budget cycles in, though. Hi, my name is Melissa Laird. I'm on the Washington County and SDL number 1 budget committee. This will be my 3rd budget for that committee. Then before that, I was on the ESPD budget committee as well. I'm very involved in the Washington County because, I live here and I want to make it better, and the way you do it is by getting engaged. And I totally agree that the budget's very important because it's we the people's money, and we got to make sure we're spending it properly. And I also agree that it has to relate to the top priorities that the county wants and the people of the county want. We need to make sure we do that.
Yeah, I do. I'm Bruce Young. This is my 5th year, I think, on the budget committee. Does that sound right? Anyway, I'm on the North Bethany CSDR. And the main reason I got started doing this is that I had some concerns about what are they going to do for all these streets out here where we live. And so I decided I might as well get involved in that discussion. And they pretty much finished them all. Anybody who's been down Shackelford lately knows how well we managed to get them to take care of that. So that was good. So at any rate, I've got 4 generations of my family living in North Bethany, so I'm where I belong.
Hi, I'm Catherine Harrington. I'm a member of the board. My term ends January 3rd, 2027, so this will be my final county budget, my 8th joining Commissioners Treese and Willie in that. Really appreciate Commissioner Treese's comments. This will be my final budget committee or budget as an elected official, and I won't be asking any questions this year.
I'm Ryan Tollickson. This is my first year on the committee. I'm a budget analyst for the Port of Portland, so I really enjoy budgets, and it's obviously pretty interesting to work with the one that's close to home. So, you know, I live right down the street and pretty excited to participate, so good to meet everybody. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped into it, so. Yeah. Ryan Tollickson. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Boland. I believe this is my 10th cycle of all this fun. And I see myself as an advocate out in the community because people talk about how much they pay all the time. And my answer is you take $1.2 billion divided by 365 days a year and divide that by 650,000 people, it's $5 a day.
My name is Bob Zarowski. This is my second year on the ESPD advisory group for the budget committee. Background, university professor, School of Business, taught strategic planning. Also worked as a consultant for Fortune 100 companies, and so budgeting is not new to me. And I appreciate being here because I've had 50 years with the community almost with Washington County.
Hi, my name is Anthony Mills. I've lived in Lowell for about 53 years. This is the second time around that I've been on the ESPD budget committee. I was on it years ago and then stepped off for a while and then rejoined last year. I've also been on Teach PRDs and the Soil Water Conservation Districts and other ones like that. So I love this county. It's not perfect, but it's one of the best ones that I know of, and I want to make it better. And we have a great group of people that work every day to do that. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve King, county's budget manager, and then budget is really important to me because it's my life currently. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marnie Kyle. I'm one of the assistant county administrators, and I don't know how many budgets I've done in this county. I've been in county government for 40 years now, so that's a lot of budgets. And the reason it's really important to me is because I'm an old public health nurse, and that's how we assure that we get the services to the community that they need.
Hi, good evening. I'm Alex Barnett. I'm the Washington County Council. Much like Brett, this is my first budget cycle, so I am looking forward to joining the journey with all of you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin Calvert. I'm another one of the assistant county administrators, and I have the portfolio of the Public Safety and Justice Departments and a few others. And I don't know how many budgets I've been here. I've been in the county administrative office. This is probably the 7th one, but 33rd year at the county. So budget adjacent at times and important for all the reasons that have been said today.
Hi, good evening. I'm Scott Hartraft. I'm an engineer. I don't really do a lot of budget except when I ask my bosses for their money. So I get a couple million here. I appreciate being involved with here. I've been here for 25 years in Washington County. It's been neat to see the county grow and like to see it continue to grow.
Hi, everyone. My name is Spencer Hatch. I've lived in Cedar Mill with my wife for 5 years now. I work at First Tech Credit Union as an analyst there, and I'm excited to be a part of the process here.
All right, I think that gets around Ann.
I think I'm the last one.
Right.
Hi, I'm Anna Ober. I'm one of the assistant county administrators, and I think ditto to everything everyone else said, but my portfolio works with our internal services. So budget falls within that team, and you're going to see a lot of me.
All right, thank you everyone for your introduction. I know we have Sarah Beachy online. Maybe she's able to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sarah Beachy. I'm on the North Bethany County Service District for roads. I think it's been about 8 years now. I just consider myself a community advocate and got involved originally because of our development of our schools out here. I wanted to make sure our kids had safe routes to schools. And that's why I'm here right now at my house, as I have just jogged through the neighborhood to see our local parks, our new Harvest Park, and everyone out enjoying it on this great evening. So just trying to make sure that our community is safe and accessible to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. You say there was another?
Good evening, everyone. Nafisa Fai, Washington County Commissioner for District 1. This is my 6th year doing budgeting for Washington County. And I would have to say it's one of the most engaged process as county commissioners. And I think it's one of the big reasons that people elected us here. So I see it as a way to ensure taxpayers' money are spent wisely. So looking forward to this journey as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for the introductions. And I guess I didn't say a little bit about myself when I started off. And I came over from the sheriff's office. I was the administrative manager there for 5 years. And I took this position in November of 2024, just before the last budget cycle. Many of you who were here last year may know that. We've had a lot of turnover in our finance department with our deputy chief financial officer, our controller, our entire management accounting team of 3 people, key positions that do our budget process. And so it's been a challenge working through that and building our team. And so I think we're in a good shape this year. Pretty excited about the people that we've hired. I do want to highlight some of the things that have happened since the last budget cycle that have been, I think, things to really be proud of. We went out for a bond for $150 million for our major streets transportation program. And we received a AAA rating from Moody's in that process to maintain our good stead.
Sorry, I can't help myself.
Okay.
The board has heard this before from me, but just AAA bond rating from Moody's is the highest standard of bond rating that a public agency can receive. So what does that mean? That means it is not just looking at your current financial management and budgets. Do you have the resources to pay these bonds? It's looking at how you've managed, how the board has governed through ups and downs. It is much easier to govern and manage when you have more resources than less. And so to have the bond rating at a time that we had 5 years of consecutive budget cuts, and still maintain the financial posture that we have is very successful. It's also an indication of our economy here within Washington County. So they look at economic indicators with the bond rating. And so what does a bond rating mean outside of just issuing those bonds? Many companies do look at bond ratings when they are looking to locate and also stay within a community. So it is telling of just who we are as a Washington County community and ecosystem.
Thank you for that. Also, we just transitioned to a new ERP, so an enterprise resource platform that's the backbone of all the work that we do in the county, both from HR standpoint, finance, IT, and all the things that happen in the county happen through that system. First time we've done that in 20 plus years. Big endeavor, a lot of work that went into that. And from a finance perspective, it involves updating our chart of accounts, revising how the backbone of our budget is. And so that was a huge endeavor. In December, we had a supplemental budget to re-adopt our budget in the new chart of accounts. And so that'll transition as we go into this year. We went live on this system in January, very successful, got our first paychecks paid out in January. It was a big step for us. But that also had ripple effects with the chart of accounts into other systems. So our ability to build the budget in the budget book software, we have to change a lot of that. Working our audit, annual audit stuff and other things, the team has just done a lot of work to get it done. So my hat's off to them.
And John, I just have to sing praises again.
yes.
So this is where I just want to tell a bit more about this story. So the county was on an unsupported Oracle system. What unsupported means is Oracle would not support the system anymore. So it was what it was, and if it broke, it broke. Why is that a problem? Because that is the system that keeps our finance, HR, and other kind of core operating needs. When I arrived at the county close to 5.5 years ago, I immediately, within the first month of being here, asked, are we going to look at replacing this? Well, we don't have any plans. I'm not sure where we're going to get the money. And the money to replace an ERP is always challenging, especially within the public sector when why are you spending money on technology when our roads are in need, or we need patrol within our sheriff's department or other needs? Without this technology, we could not offer those services to the community, and puts the county at significant risk without a system that is operating appropriately. So under the board's leadership, the board had used one-time dollars through federal ARPA funds to help support the acquisition of the Workday software, as well as adequately resource the implementation of the system. John, and you heard some staff cheer for first paycheck issued. What that really means is that employees got paid on time and accurately. This is where headlines are caused because, of course, if someone doesn't get their paycheck, that is a significant risk. And so for us, from a staff perspective, that milestone of smooth implementation of payroll was huge. Do we still have implementation needs and change management needs? Absolutely, because with any new system, it doesn't go smoothly. But we have change management in place, and in place in a way that we will be keeping up with the system over time, as it is purchased through software as a service, so that we will have contracts or updates twice a year, I believe. And already IT has informed us just most recently at an all-employee meeting that we're already encountering our first update, which I have wanted to cover my ears and say, no, I think we just went live. Can't we be excited about that? But you will, and we will make sure when you do receive the budget, walk through what changes that you'll see in the budget document due to chart of account changes, as John had mentioned verbally quickly. But this is a huge milestone for the county, and the first time in my career, I've gone through 2 other transitions before, I have not had one employee ask why we're doing this. Not one. And that is telling of how outdated our system was that we were operating on before. Thanks, John.
Thank you. The last important point I want to highlight, just for budget perspective, in November, the voters approved our public safety levy and the library levy. So that was a huge step, and we appreciate the voters supporting those services that are important to them and to us. So with that, I will pass it to you.
Okay. So part of the story, too, of why John's making sure that he's holding the clicker and he's in charge is that, if you may not tell by now, I get excited talking about the county and especially budget, and sometimes I can't help myself, and I just keep talking through the slides, and then I take John's show away from him. And so maybe that's also the distance. I don't know. You all can interpret what you may want to think. So now I will do just a very high level brief overview of documents which are in your packet. And John, because the print is small on these handouts, can someone email the slide deck out to all budget committee members? You did? Okay, yes. Perfect. And for members of the public also who may be listening, this information is available through the board meeting portal. So this video of this budget context will also be available on YouTube thereafter if anyone wants to rewatch it, because it's such a riveting content. So counties are actually a creation of the state. We are an agent of the state, and as part of that creation, some of the services that we deliver are on behalf of the state. The state sometimes pays us for those services, and sometimes they don't pay us for those services and just require us to deliver those services. Through the budget process, you will hear words such as that's a mandated service, that's an unfunded mandated service, that's an underfunded mandated service, and or that's a discretionary service. The counties and cities too, but counties, because of the services we provide, have over the last several years, due to property tax restrictions, have felt more pressure to deliver mandated services without the resources from the state. And that puts a great deal of pressure on the county. One of the services counties deliver, that Washington County delivers, that is a mandated service that we receive $0 for, is jail services, for example. This is required. It is a service that is based on inflow to the jail. So this is very different than we would like to provide a service at a higher level. It is based on the number of adults in custody, in essence, that you're serving. For Washington County, we have the smallest jail per capita within the state and are currently undergoing a jail capacity study to look at future expansion of the jail, which will include future operating and capital needs. We also provide services, I'll use, for example, behavioral health services that fortunately we've been able to just within the last couple months, January, I believe, of this year, successfully renegotiate a contract with the state. That took an extended period of time to have that contract negotiated because the potential liability that the state was potentially going to be passing on to the county. We know, and we continue to hear from our community, increasing needs in behavioral health services within our community. So that is an example of a vital service, but for those state dollars, the county would not be in a position to deliver those services. So I'm not going to spend time, because we could spend almost a whole day just going through the county service portfolio, but through the budget process, you will be hearing more about this. Next slide. In your packet, this is just an infogram depicting just the vast array of county services that we provide. And I like to kind of take the tour a few times because it's an important reminder, from hosting the county fair to holding elections, to managing and securing the county's computer system and systems, to contracting with 9 cities and 3 nonprofits to operate 16 libraries. So there is a vast array of services that we deliver here in Washington County each and every day, and your budget committees will touch on that. Next slide. So how do we structure our work? Here within the county. Our work is, of course, guided by community. We have our Board of Commissioners, which serve on budget committees, and our board has introduced themselves this evening, the chair and 4 district commissioners. We have an elected performance auditor, elected district attorney. The district attorney is actually a state employee, justice of the peace, and the sheriff. Appointed officials include myself, county administrator, and county counsel Alex Burnett, who introduced himself. So those are the 2 direct reports that the Board of Commission that report directly to the Board of Commissioners. Under reporting to me is also the assistant county administrators. We have them listed on this slide because you're going to actually hear a lot from them during the budget process, because they will be providing budget presentations, especially for the general budget, the Washington County and Service District for Lighting Budget Committee. And so county employees report up through the county administrator, and we currently have 2,400 employees here at Washington County. Next slide. On this slide, and I'm not going to take time to go through this slide, but on this portion, this includes our departments and our breakout of our departments. Within your budget document, you will see this org chart, which is, I'll call it a functional org chart of how we organize our work. And I said functional org chart, and it is broken into functional areas, so I'm glad I used the right nomenclature. And so that is how we will organize budget presentations for the General Budget Committee. Next slide. Now we'll move on to.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for taking it back.
I will take one slide all I can. So just to talk about where we are in the budget process, and there's a more detailed schedule in the back of the packet that we'll talk later. But we recently had the departments submit their budget proposals to us, and so we're looking at that data. We had an update to the board with a roundtable this last week, and we're here today to talk, just to provide a budget committee update to the committee members, the public. We'll have on April 13th a budget committee orientation, and then the 27th will be the day that we release the budget to the public and we present the budget message. And so between now and then, the budget committee is not to deliberate as a group or until the budget is officially released on April 27th. And then from that point, we'll have time to a couple rounds of questions and some budget presentations similar to what we did last year. With some hard deadlines to get questions in, we'll get responses back, and we can also have some discussion one-on-one as the need arises. Budget committee presentations for Washington County budget will be on the 14th and 15th of May, and then the 20th of May will be for the special districts budgets, and then on the 16th of June, intent is to have a public hearing and a vote to adopt the budget.
So before you move on this slide, the context setting is different than the budget orientation, which will have the budget orientation at your next meeting. This budget context conversation this evening was based on a request from you, budget committee members. And this came as a request, I believe it was 2 years ago, and it was, it seems like the Board of Commissioners has an awful lot of conversations about the budget leading up to budget orientation. It would be really helpful to understand what's the journey that you've all been on to catch us all up to speed. And so that's really the purpose this evening. And so our Board of Commissioners, in each meeting that they have, they make policy decisions that impact the budget. More specifically, leading up to this process, they have, as part of their board roundtables, which is once a month on Thursdays, they have what's called a fiscal focus. And starting in September, October, November, December, January, and then March. I don't think we had one in February. We skipped February. Each of those months, the board has had really a deep focus on finances. So tonight is just a summary of those. Those roundtables are available through our board meeting portal if you do want to review those materials more in depth. I do know one member of this group, and I will, because she saw me make eye contact with her and smile, so I will actually name Melissa Laird, has watched each of those roundtables and thoroughly reviewed that material, as Melissa also serves as chair of the Public Safety Coordinating Committee. So just thank you for putting in, I would say, the extra effort, Melissa, and your good questions throughout the year as well. Next slide. Back to you. Oh, okay. So this is me. All taxing districts within Washington County. So one of the functions of the county through our assessment and taxation department is we collect taxes for all taxing districts. And then we have the responsibility to collect them and then distribute out to the taxing districts. That work does not occur within our finance department, but a separate department. One of the reasons why is so that we keep that function with a high degree with integrity and clean from the process to ensure public trust of the collection of those taxpayer dollars, and that those dollars are not to remain just in Washington County, but based on the spread of taxing districts. So for Washington County, you can see the difference of change within our real market value or assessed market value. So from a county, we do have a healthy growth within of our tax base here at Washington County. Next slide. Can you click another time, because animation's going to come forward. One more, thank you. So this is referred to as Tanya's favorite slide, and I'll speak a bit more about the why behind that. So in the 90s, there was what's called Measure 5 and Measure 50 that was passed, which created a permanent tax rate within Oregon. So at that point in time, your tax rate, including any serial levies, became your permanent rate. So based on that point of time, the permanent rates of Washington, Clackamas, and Multnomah County are shown on this chart in yellow. As you can see, Washington County has the lowest permanent rate. At that point in time also, the county had 2 serial levies. One, MSTIP, Major Street Transportation Improvement Program, and WCCLS, the library system. The county, by policy, had decided we want to stay true to those being funding priorities, so we are going to continue to transfer at that rate to the MSTIP program as well as libraries. So you see the red kind of arrow of our permanent rate. We do transfer out dollars to MSTIP program as well as libraries, which means our general fund dollars, the discretionary, is far below Clackamas and Multnomah County's rate. I will note that the passage of the public safety and library levies, and I don't have a comparison here tonight, but it has brought our overall tax rate up slightly here in Washington County. And so you can see, if you compare the three, here at Washington County, we are far more reliant on special option levies than the other two. And I would say that's partly because of where the permanent rate was established at that point in time. The green bar is bonded capital cost. Here in Washington County, we have 0.06, and then there's it goes up from there in the other counties. One area to note is the percentage on each of the graphs. Washington County at 61%, Clackamas at 55%, and Multnomah County at 38%. What those percentages represent is the population growth between 97 and 2025. And so while we have the lowest tax rate, we have had the highest population growth, which from my lens, what I do each and every day, that is demand for service here in the county. When I share this chart with staff, I say you should be proud of the services you deliver as Washington County staff each and every day, and the ability and efficiency at which we deliver services because of that difference between the other counties and Washington County. The other reason that I like to show this chart is because many questions come up from time to time. Well, why doesn't Washington County do that? Clackamas does that, or Multnomah County does that. This helps illustrate the story of the differing tax rates or the ability to deliver different services based on the revenues in those other counties. Next slide.
All right, over to me. This is to give you a depiction of the assessed value growth and the percent change in AV from year to year. And you see the green bars, it averages about 4 to 5% per year. But in this current fiscal year, 25-26, we have what we call an anomaly year. And just to explain a little bit about that, We have agreements in place called Strategic Investment Program agreements. We have one with Intel, for example, and it's a economic development initiative designed to attract business into the county. It provides property tax abatement during the time that they're in the program, and then once they're out of the program, the property that's in abatement goes back on the property tax rolls. And that's what happened here in 25-26 this year. We had an agreement with Intel, which went and ended the service and then came on the property tax roll. And so we see a big spike in the blue bar here for Intel on the increase in AV for this year. On the other side of the coin, the money that we received from the Strategic Investment Program revenues went down. So for us, the money actually had less money for the general fund purpose, but show an increase in AV. And there are other large items that happen in AV. We had a data center that came on that did not have an agreement like that. And so in 1 year, you might see a small spike. Same with this maximum, which is a property that also came on to the property rolls without some special agreement in place. But we planned for these year to year. We knew this Intel was happening in the budget. Typically, there's a 3% cap based on Measure 5 and Measure 50. The average 4 to 5% growth normally. We have, expansion of the properties in the county that take that above 3%. And there are cautions as we look at this model. So while we say it's an anomaly year, and we kind of think going into next year and the year after that, in the planning years, we plan for about 4 to 5% increase in AV each year. And so this is really once in a, you don't see this very often. When those large agreements come off the rolls and onto the property tax rolls, it makes a difference. Yes.
I would like you to repeat one more time what the net value of that 4.4% increase is and what the offsetting piece is.
Well, just so as far as the Intel or agreement with Intel, we had $20 million in revenue coming in SIP, and then when we went to the property tax rolls, it went in half. So we got about $10 million. So we lost $10 million in that transition when the property went from abatement onto the property tax rolls.
So some of you that were here last year, as a
Right.
memory, because it's not a distant memory for me. We, last year in the general fund, we had to close a $20.5 million budget cut. That was not all related to the Intel SIP rolling back onto the property tax rolls. As John pointed out, about $10 million of that was the change from SIP to Intel rolling onto the property tax roll. So it was a reduction to what our revenue for the county was. I want to also reflect, though, this was known because the Intel SIP agreement had expired or reached its term of expiration. So there have been questions that I've been asked from community from time to time. Does this mean that Intel wasn't a good partner? That is absolutely not it. There is a certain duration or certain window for the strategic investment program agreements.
So just so that I understand this FOIA well, so as Intel went off of SIP and their properties on the property tax rolls, that means we have more property that we're taxing now. So there's a pretty good spike increase in property that we're taxing now.
That we're able to collect from.
Yeah, we're able to collect from. So, so as we see the property tax rolls come along, and it's normal little 4 to 5%, but there should be a little step up in 25, 26 because we've got more property now that are paying taxes for us, and then we go back to that 4% kind of march up, right? But we should see, if we see a revenue stream for Washington County, it should be going along, and there should be a little step up this year, and then it moves up, right?
You can share the next slide here. So if you look at AV growth over time, about $3 billion per year increase in the AV assessed value. And then we have a jump here in 25, 26. And then from that point on, it would go about the same slope as what we currently have seen.
Can you go back to the previous slide? So, Melissa, we just this last Thursday, at the board's roundtable, the board okay, so you have one more now. The board did have substantial discussion and had some great feedback on how else we can provide this information. We just couldn't pull it off by tonight, so we are looking at different ways to look at this, because the one thing I would stress is this slide does not show the property tax collection growth. This is only showing the assessed value growth by year. And so we're in percentages.
Right.
So we are working on that chart, given the questions the board had asked. We just couldn't get it done by tonight. Yep.
Good news is we got more property in the growth.
And just to reiterate, so this slide just kind of shows that slope and the bump in the AV going forward.
Back to me?
Yes.
Okay. So this is, and it's much easier to read on your printout or actually on the screens, not the large screen in front of you. So Washington County, I mentioned our assessment and taxation department collects a total of $1.7 billion in taxes each year that is distributed out to go to work in service to community and all the taxing districts. Of each dollar collected, just under half, 46%, goes to education. The county retains 16.1%, with some of that 16.1% going to the public safety and justice levy and the library levy. Then 17.9% is directed to cities, 8.7% fire, other special districts, 7.6%, metro regional government, 3.3%, and urban renewal district, it's a very small, under a percentage. Okay, next slide. Board guidance. So as part of, and I mentioned roundtables, each year the board gives guidance to the county administrator, budget officer, myself, in preparation of the budget. I'm not going to spend time walking through the principles and priorities. You will hear more about this as we through the proposed budget, specifically the budget message and also the narratives and presentation. The principles and priorities, next slide please, are really the guideposts for staff to be using as we are preparing the budget. Next slide.
All right, so we're just going to walk through our general fund forecast and focus a little bit on general fund tonight, as this is a main point of topic we've had in many of our roundtables. I just want to highlight, so each budget year we have to look at a 5-year forecast. Where do we stand going into the budget process? So just to walk you through this slide, on the lines at the top, the red line dashed, those are our expenses, our requirements, and the blue line is resources available. And you can see we have a structural imbalance between those revenues and expenditures, primarily due to Measure 5, Measure 50, and the cap on property tax values, because property tax is what is the mostly funds our general fund. On the bottom, we have the big thick bars, and that's our money we have at ending fund balance at the end of each year. And then the purple line is the target balance that we want to have as a reserve. Our reserve policy requires us to have 4 months of property tax revenues as a beginning fund balance, because taxes don't come in until November, so we have to have 4 months of operating cash on hand. At the bottom, we have assumptions that we have in our forecasts. Revenues, tax growth. For collection, we budget 4.25% increase. We have the Strategic Investment Program transfer, which I talked about, so SIP, the money that is in those special programs with big industry, a good piece of that supports ongoing operations in the general fund. We have expenses looking at personnel services, materials and services, and then we have our Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program and our Washington County library system that also receive general funds. And then going forward 27, 28 through the end of the cycle, we show revenues as fairly stable as an assumption. And then, of course, we have the inflationary pressures. And so our first look at this was in November. We were showing about a $7.2 million shortfall, and then going into this budget year. So that's where we started. And as an art and science to putting together forecasts, so as we go along, we learn more, we find things, and we assess and adjust our projections. So we came back in December, with another updated forecast. One of the things we updated here was our cost allocation plan. So the other assumptions remain the same, but the cost allocation plan is what provides funding that supports the general services that provide support to internal services within our county government. Things like HR, finance, county administrator. In FY24, so 3 years ago, we took those departments and took them out of the general fund and moved them into internal service funds. And so the model sets up where each of the other funds and departments pay into those to support the internal services that they are getting. And this was a way to do transparent accounting for them. Also, it's a GFOA, the Government Finance Officer Association best practice. So over the years, with the dollars increasing in fund balance in those internal service funds, we're looking at that this year, and we decided that it's at a point where it's leveling off, and so we changed the assumption that it's decreasing, so the amount that the departments pay into the internal service fund cap cost are lower, which enabled us to lower our estimates by a couple $1 million, and in December, our shortfall target for the budget process was $5 million. And fast forward to this week. We came back in March. So we, as we're going through our budget process and we're looking at things that we pay for in our general fund, one of those things was a debt service. So we had a $6.2 million debt service that ended this year that we had missed in our general fund forecast. And so that payment is no longer required, and we updated the forecast. And we also had a portion of a PERS debt service payment that was also reduced. So these adjustments brought us into the green, $1.7 million to the positive as we look at the budget process. So I mentioned earlier in our cycle, we've had the departments provide the proposed budgets. And so as we're looking at all of that and working to put together a balanced proposed budget, this is what we take into account as a starting point for the budget.
Thank you, John. Next slide. So I'm just going to mention this slide, but then use the following slides because the font is quite small because we keep adding to this slide. But if you've watched board discussions, you may have heard the 2-column slide that talks about general fund pressures. We wanted to keep this in the same format, but continue to add to it, but we've broken it out in future slides. So next slide. So I'm going to first focus on what was on the left-hand column of that slide. And these are items that we have included within this year's fiscal forecast. So that was the last slide that John presented, the March forecast that shows we're just above, we're in a better cash position than going into this proposed budget than we had thought we were in November. So this will include 3 new bargaining units and newly ratified existing union agreements at the county. The 3 new unions that have formed is the district attorneys, deputy attorneys, as well as juvenile services. And then state statute had allowed sheriff's office sergeants to bargain. So that has also been completed as the 3rd union agreement this last year. Within the sheriff's office, last year we had cut, how many positions? The number just went 26?
I did cut, yeah.
About 26 positions. As part of balancing last year's budget, a total of 83 positions were eliminated from the general fund. What's in the adopted budget is a commitment to come back and relook at those positions within the sheriff's office once the sheriff's office reaches fill rate. So part of the positions were on the jail side and the other portion on sheriff's patrol. The sheriff's office has had, with support of the board, a very focused effort on recruitment. Within the jail, we are now at fill rate. So what does that mean? That we are able to open up the additional pods that have been closed in the jail so that we can get to our current operating capacity, which is really good news and reduces the early releases that we've been experiencing for years. So it would be reinstating those eliminated positions from last year's budget. ARPA transition. One of the things that I am very proud of here at the county, and just talking to another local government as recent as this afternoon, is how we account for one-time funds and budgeting for those one-time funds. Cities and counties have experienced since COVID really once in a lifetime, once in a generation, federal funds coming through CARES Act and ARPA. The county has made very strategic efforts of ensuring that those one-time funds were reflected as one-time funds. Some of the positions that we have hired have been determined that they are critical positions to our core operating. For example, centralized grants administration. The county did not have an FTE that was focused on grants compliance. This has been a performance auditor finding as well as concerns expressed from our financial auditor in the past too. So it would be continuing that position as an example. But any ARPA or one-time programs that were created during the midst of the pandemic will be retired when those funds are expired. I'm just noting that because in the media, there may be within the next month or two, other cuts other jurisdictions are going to be experiencing because of their financial practices are not separating out one-time versus ongoing revenue sources. So I'm proud of that too. Sheriff's Office body-worn cameras for jail deputies. Our Sheriff's Office patrol deputies have had body-worn cameras since 2020, and this would be extending body-worn cameras in the jail as well, and that contract is underway, so it is just reflecting those costs within this upcoming budget year. In November of 2025, the board had allocated $200,000 for SNAP Nutritional Assistance Program, and this was due to the disruption in the federal SNAP or food assistance dollars flowing to communities. The dollars were awarded to the Oregon Food Bank to help work with local food pantries and other outlets to distribute those funds, as well as for immigrant and refugee services. Those dollars were taken from reserves. So what's highlighted in yellow is that this upcoming budget year, we will need to replace those reserves, so we still maintain our reserve targets based on budget policy. Next slide. Okay, this is what's not included in the financial forecast. And this is now changed from just what was on the right-hand column to two columns because it's too small for one to see. So we do have uncertainties. The county continues to have uncertain federal and state grant and contract uncertainties and changes, as well as within those requirements. The county is undergoing a classification and compensation study, and we have general increases to personnel cost. Without people, the county cannot deliver its work each and every day. Historical collections. The county's historical collections were managed by Five Oaks Museum. Those collections have been relinquished to the county, and so the county will be taking over the management of that historical collection. That part of that cost will be built into this upcoming budget. However, it will not be the full cost. With the cost allocation plan, or John had mentioned the internal service cost there's a lag in how we account. So part of the cost will be reflected in this upcoming proposed budget, and then the following year, the full cost, so that includes the facility cost and all internal services will be reflected. And that's not just for the historical collection, it's how we account for cap costs in general. We continue to see increased costs and requests coming from bargaining units and the newly ratified bargaining agreements. Our transit lodging tax has been decreasing. The board will be receiving an update on this on April 16th. This is hotel, motel lodging tax. The 15 sheriff's office positions eliminated, so these are the positions I didn't reference in the previous slide from the 26 budget, is not included nor planned to be budget until we hear from the sheriff's office that they are at their fill rate. And one thing I will just note from a policing agency standpoint, policing agencies use officer per thousand as a benchmark to determine how many officers are needed. The reinstatement of these 15 positions does not bring us to the officer per thousand benchmark. So I just want to make that known as well. That would be above that 15 positions. Enterprise zones, the county administers through assessment and taxation several enterprise zones. However, we do not collect for the full administration and appraisal of those costs. Jail expansion operational costs, I mentioned this on the much earlier slide. We are undergoing a jail capacity study. Next column, facilities. There's a lot of things in our buildings that we don't see each and every day, but we are continuing to learn more. One of those includes a recent update the board had received on Service Center East, which is our east precinct for our sheriff's office. Also, that's where our Justice of the Peace resides, as well as other services. There is water intrusion coming through the building envelope. So that's the outside, what you may seen. And before you get to the interior wall, water is coming between those two areas, which means at some point your foundation will tip out or tip in. This is not a good place to be. We are starting to see even water intrusion in this building. And there is a point in time that you need to make that investment so that you reduce the long-term liability. And so we are examining what are the investments that need to be made now to reduce that long-term carrying cost. I will note the county does not have adequate funding sources for its capital needs of existing buildings, not even expansion, but our existing buildings. As our workforce changes, continued workspace needs, consolidation of locations to maybe reduce our footprint, also changes that we are experiencing around safety and security needs for employees as well as the public that we serve. Unfunded and underfunded requirements for new construction. We are continuing to see inflation impacts. While it's not as high as we had seen during the height of the pandemic, the pressures are still occurring. Assessment and taxation, archives building. As the county has grown, we are out of space for our records. The county has several statutes, mandated requirements for records of permanent storage, and we need to address that because these are, for example, deeds, property tax, property records that the public depends on, and we have a liability and a requirement to make sure that they are safe for a long period of time. Just like on the operating side, you see the jail on the capital side because we need to account for jail expansion operating costs in the future as well as those capital costs. Medical examiner. The county is required by statute to provide medical examination services without state funds. We do not have a medical examination facility and work on that through regional contracts. However, that capacity is going away, and we will need to determine a longer-term solution here in Washington County with some potential of some partnerships. And within this current fiscal year's capital improvement plan, we are undergoing a study, which the board will be presented with those first findings within the next couple months. Courthouse. The county has received courthouse planning dollars as a match from the state, and so we are just starting that process for long-term courthouse planning. I want to just underscore the heading on the top of the right column. These are all major, and I may actually insert the word again, major capital projects not included in the fiscal forecast. In many of these cases, we don't know what those dollars will be because we are either at the very early stage of the scoping or study process, but they are on the horizon. Next slide.
So I've sat up here all night for one slide. Welcome to it. Next slide, please. So one of the projects that I have been working on this year is trying to find opportunities for new revenue. As much as we are doing okay this year, we are not doing well. And when you look at the unfunded portion of what we still need to figure out in terms of capital especially, we have a horizon that's just not matching up with measures 5 and 50 and the constraints on our property taxes. So we've been doing this in 3 ways. The first is that we've been working on a new revenue project over the course of the last year, trying to find different revenue sources that the county can tap into in order to try and stabilize some of these needs. This is something that the Association of Counties is also going to be doing this year. We're working in partnership. We'll be sharing our information with them next week so that they have this information. But counties and cities across all of Oregon are facing the same problem, which is with measures 5 and 50, the rate that we are growing in terms of our property tax is not matching the cost of increased service. It's just not. So we're trying to figure that out. The board's been having these conversations. The first item that we're addressing is the possibility of adopting a new vehicle registration fee. The staff are working with some of our cities to have discussions about whether or not this is an amenable option. We'll be coming back to the board this summer to have further discussions about whether or not it's of interest to the county to adopt this new fee and move that forward into our revenue sources. Yes. That is a great idea. So GROW is our general revenue options. And then the other is our regional transportation funding options.
Thanks for asking that. And in future slides, we'll make sure to spell them out. I think sometimes we can live in acronym soup for so long that we forget to even see the acronym.
Absolutely. So the RTFO partnership on the GROW. So we've been working with LUT, another acronym, our Land Use and Transportation Department, to try and find ways to bring in revenues that can help stabilize both the needs for our roads because the costs are going up for those construction projects as well, and then for the general revenues. The second way that we do this has been, yes.
I just wanted to emphasize that we are in discussions right now.
Correct.
And this will not be part of this upcoming budget cycle.
Correct. This really is us trying to make sure the next budget cycle, we have some answers. This year we didn't have answers when we were looking at shortfalls.
And if I could add to that, we did not include the journey that we've been on slides. Those are slides that we presented last year, so those that are returning may have seen that. We can provide those as context of the deep cuts that we have faced over the last 5 years. We are at the point that, in one of the statements I've made before, we're at bone within our departments. The other way I would phrase it is there's no more fat to cut within our service. We are at a true either service reduction, service elimination, or in some cases exploring, can we turn services back to the state that we willingly took on some years ago. And so it is really where we're at is the need, because of the structural imbalance, that either we have to cut more services and or find new revenue, because it's just not, the dollars don't match over time on the trends that we are seeing with the population growth that we continue to experience here in Washington County. We'll use the microphone just because those on Zoom can't hear.
I don't know if you've seen the recent bill that came out of Washington State where they're putting an income tax in on the higher end households. Is that something that's an option for here?
So the GROW project did look at business income tax as a possibility. But again, that sits on the business side of it, not on the personal income side of it. But there are restrictions in Oregon that are different than Washington. Right now, we're looking at every possibility. So when Tanya talks about how much we've cut, last year it was 83 positions, I think, that we reduced. So those were literally people trying to find any position that they could survive without. It doesn't lead to great delivery of service when we're at that point. So part of this is we've been cutting so much that, yes, right now it looks like it's okay for the first time in 6 years, but that's because all of those things behind it are gone. And we've got to start replacing some of them, or we're not going to be able to provide the services that we need to in a way that people will feel like we're good stewards. So we appreciate this conversation. So yes, that's one option. We've looked at additional levies. We've looked at special districts. We're looking at a variety of tools to bring forward to the board. We partnered with an organization called Marina. They are a government finance consulting firm. They've done audits for local governments in Oregon for the last 20 years. They've got an insight to how we run, and they also have been a real gift on how we can function within the state structure that we've been granted. Yes.
Thank you. I know that over several instances during this presentation, we've talked about the property tax limitation that was passed, 40 years ago?
Yeah.
That makes no sense for today. First of all, I'm not the first one to say that I probably don't want to pay more property tax, but if we can't support the services within the county, I think everybody in the county at some point, regardless of who they are, needs some of those services for them personally and their family members. So if that's the case, maybe we need to figure out a way to get that cut out and go back to a standard property tax system. The problem is, again, Washington County, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, and several other large counties in the state are the ones that went together and did this, and so you have to undo it. Sometimes undoing is harder than doing.
Undoing it would be really difficult, and it's a constitutional amendment. So at this point, us undoing it would take a lift of the entire state. We have had conversations both as the Association of Counties, the League of Oregon Cities has had this conversation. They've worked with the legislature over the years to try and unfurl this, and it is exceptionally difficult. But every time we bring up the problem, it is the right solution.
Yes.
It's just not the solution that we control or that we would be able to modify as Washington County.
This is something we might be able to get the press behind us as far as do a TV interview or something. Say, hey guys, come on.
We've talked about it for a long time. So before I came here, I was a city manager, and that mayor is now at the legislature, and he cares a lot about this. Everybody who's worked in local government sees this problem. On this commission, we have a couple of former mayors who understand and care about this, and they've been trying for a long time. The answer I give every time an employee brings us up is the same one I'll give you here, which is, please, do you know anyone? If there are people that you can work with, I think it's definitely worth a conversation. It's in our priority list when we talk about going to the legislature every year. And now we have a commissioner willing to give some answers.
I mean, just to sort of circle back on that, what would need to happen if you thought you had the political support throughout the state would be, because it is in the Constitution, it would require, the easiest path would be to have the legislature refer something to voters that modified the Constitution. The other alternative would be collecting hundreds of thousands of signatures and trying to put something on the ballot through referendum. That would be more challenging and probably usually doesn't end up in the best results. So that's really what would need to happen if that helps you with the sort of the process of what could bring it to all of us to vote on.
So then we get into other tools that we've used to balance our needs over the years. So in 1988, we started working on the ESPD. We're now going into the ESPD levy cycle, so we will be working on this for 2028 for an adoption at that time. But that really is one of the key pieces for funding our sheriff's team for the unincorporated area. We also, as was mentioned a couple times in tonight's conversation, have had 2 successful levies, both for library and for our public safety. And so you will see those dollars coming into this budget cycle, and we will be having a number of conversations about how those changes also benefit the needs of the county. But it's going to take, because Measures 5 and 50 are so complicated, it's going to take a whole bunch of solutions, and we're trying to make sure that any solutions we bring forward really start to address the problems, rather than creating what's known in politics as a Christmas tree, which is a whole bunch of little things that are tied together. Those usually don't work out in the long run. Our hope is to find some larger scale solutions so that we can hopefully move forward as an organization. And now I get to move.
I call to the stand, Philip.
I love that. Just get the media to focus, and I appreciate that suggestion. Philip Bransford again, Communications Officer, and would you do the honors, please? So this is, I'm not sure if the Budget Committee has seen this particular slide, but what this does is it takes that timeline slide that you saw earlier that John presented and kind of plots it in the top row there. And so this is what the Budget Committee is experiencing, and there's a lot of effort that goes behind supporting your budget committees as you are hearing the proposed budget rollout and convening this evening, in fact, all the way through to the actual budget approval and budget adoption points in time. That's the top layer here. And then we've been, over time, doing more communicating on the bottom layer here, which means reaching out to the public, reaching out even to our own employees. In this very room, just the other day, we had an all-employee meeting where we went through each of these slides as well. And that's just showing you how, on the communication side, we're doing our level best to get the word out. As Ann just mentioned, we're not the only ones, facing this structural problem with the property tax system in Oregon, and we reach out to our fellow cities, special districts, our community-based organizations, as to what we are up to in terms of the Washington County budget. And then when we roll into this, these color schemes here, we are now in this yellow area where we are by law not allowed to disclose what on the inside here, the internal process is, the sausage making for arriving at a balanced proposed budget yet. We're not allowed to discuss that openly. That's the mechanics that these two outstanding people and many others are working together to provide. That all changes when you go from yellow to, what is that, blue. It looks a little like Easter colors on my, okay, that might be a little better depiction. The blue is starts the, as the starting gun, really. On April 27th, the county administrator, who's also the budget officer for Washington County, unveils her proposed balanced budget to you, to the community. It goes on our webpage, and that's why you'll see that redundancy there down that middle of the chart. And that's when you, in your role as budget committee members, really get to dig in, as many of you have done already many years now, and ask us questions. We take those questions over 2 iterations is what our plan is here. So you'll see these deadlines where we'll welcome any kind of questions that we're that we can provide an answer to, so that everybody gets the benefit from the answer. And we'll do that. We'll give you about a week to review the proposed budget. Send us your questions. We've got the email address right down there, but you probably have John on your speed dial already, so that's another way to do this. And then we'll combine those questions and answers into a document we'll release back to your board. What is that, on the 11th of May. And then we'll just go through this again. What happens, some of you might even remember this. You will have questions that you'll ask of the various assistant county administrators and so forth that Tanya mentioned earlier that come to your budget committee meetings to present the budget. That's great. We'll do our level best to answer you right there at the witness table. Sometimes we need to get back to you in writing. We don't, because you are so sharp in what you ask for that we hadn't thought of, well, that's a good question. We're going to have to research that one. So that takes a little bit more time, and we'll come back just before you're entertaining the public hearing for approving the budget. That will be that second iteration of sharing back to you on the 18th of May. So you see there's 2 phases to that question answer document that I'm talking about. And then it all goes onto the webpage, so that any community member that's following us on YouTube, following us on Tualatin Valley Community Television can also see these questions and answers. And then we'll hopefully have the budget approved. We'll announce that on the comms side through our various channels, including the media, thank you. And we'll continue on with the process all the way until the board takes a vote on adopting the budget, a balanced budget for the next fiscal year. So that's in essence what this chart is trying to say.
Yeah, can I, that's a lot of information. So if it's, I may not remember that as an individual sitting here in the audience, that's okay. So you will receive upcoming dates through John. When you come back to budget orientation based on feedback from our board, and guess what? The board has talked about this slide and the next slides on budget calendar, and they asked some more great questions this last Thursday. And so we will, during budget orientation, we will share more process information, date information on how to submit a question, the frequently asked questions, and dive a bit deeper into budget process. So please just take this as a high-level process timeline for your information, and more detail will come in the budget orientation. If you do have individual desires for more information right now, John can be your follow-up person to ask those detailed questions about. But I just want to, this can be a lot, and we live in this each and every day, so we are here and we're committed to being with you on this journey.
All right. Was there somebody with a question? Oh, yes.
For those of you who are new, the budget book is about 500 pages. And you have a week to put in your first set of questions. So now's a good time to look at your calendar from 4/27 to all of May, because the time is short and the book is thick and very complicated. Just a heads up.
I can point this out again tomorrow, but on the detailed calendar budget, it also shows up here. The meeting that the board hosted, information session for mayors, city councilors, and special districts, 4/23 won't work. They want to hear what the proposed budget has, not the detail. They're not looking for just this forecast information. So we missed the target on that. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then, was there more? Okay, thank you. So I'm not going to go into the detail that the chair was just mentioning, but it is there, in your handout. But the point here, one of the points was to pull way back and show a lot of the staff activity that is also going on as we're in this sort of marathon to the end of the process each year. I'm not sure if the two of you wanted to dive in more than that, but that's what these next two slides do.
I would just say these are in the packet. It's more detailed. The green is the budget committee activities, and yellow are updates, and then the white is a lot of staff work and just for information, things that are going on in the background.
And we'll go through that in detail at your budget orientation.
Absolutely. So we get time for some questions if there's other questions.
So because a few of you are new, I just wanted to comment on the length of the budget book. So some of you are actually in the smaller districts, so we will highlight those pages so that you don't have to go through the full budget document, and we'll try and make sure that that's clear from the time we submit this out on that Monday. I just wanted to let you know since so many of you are in the other districts. Thanks.
Thank you. I was going to make that point. All right.
Other questions, comments?
I do have one question. Last year I brought it up, but in terms of how far back can we look at kind of budget history and see the trends in specific areas? What's growing?
Yeah.
What's not?
We could go as far back as you want. I mean, what's in the budget document, I think, is the last 2 years of actuals. But if you want to go back farther and you had specific questions, we could answer that for you.
Thank you.
So can I put a clear point? So John, can you repeat for the printed budget book, what are the actuals that will be?
Printed budget book has the 2 previous years of actuals and the current estimate for this year and then the forecast for the coming budget year, so 4 years.
Okay. So as you're reviewing, let's say, and it's Bob, right? Okay, so Bob, and you're on ESPD, correct? You're on the ESPD? Yes. So you may ask the question, can you please give the history of spend for Sheriff's Office, ESPD patrol officers? So that could be a great question someone could ask as part of the frequently asked questions. But for us to pull the trend data for all program areas, that is something we don't have capacity to do holistically. I will say, though, what is part of how we forecast, we look back at historical trends, whether it is material and supplies, whether it's personnel. So that is all part of forecasting, whether it's, and we spend a lot of time on general fund forecasts, but let's take a special service district. They are doing the same type of practice within forecasting out what those spend rates are based on historical spends. Oh, thank you. Any questions on Zoom?
besides Commissioner Fye. Is there anybody else?
Sarah Beachy was.
That's right, there's two of them.
No one is raising their hands. If
Okay.
you do have any further questions, please raise your hand on Zoom so I can announce.
Yeah, I just want to I didn't want to overly scare the new people. It might be good just to talk a little bit too about the budget, how much of it is discretionary, how much of it is not, so that people know here's the budget and we're really looking at this little piece, the general fund, which is discretionary funds. So the budget has it all, and it's, and it's very complicated that way, but, we need to focus on the part that's discretionary that we can affect.
Yeah, maybe, because I think it's helpful when I have a pie chart to show that. So we'll bring that back. Thank you for that question, Melissa. We'll bring that back the next round with the pie chart. And even what's challenging within that discretionary is it's not all discretionary, because we're still mandated to do certain requirements. And so the county's, what I will call true discretionary dollars, have continued to dwindle over the 5 years of cuts because the continued reduction in federal and state support for certain of our mandated programs, which has put pressure on new priorities for the board. And I just want to really commend our Board of Commissioners, because it is really challenging to say, no, we have to just focus on getting done what we've already committed to without adding new initiatives. And that's really where we've been, especially over the last couple of years because of the fiscal state. And it feels like there's new challenges coming at us from different realms very frequently too. Specifically over this last year, just challenges with federal grants and contracts and navigating that environment.
Just to Bob's comment or question about the sort of temporal data over the last number of years and what's available, that is, at least in my mind, one thing that will be potentially challenging this year around the change to the chart of the accounts, the ERP, et cetera. Like everyone in this room, especially on the budget committee, should, I think, at least I will be continuously thinking about that and like, what we're seeing in a certain spot, does it look goofy, and is that why, or is there something else going on? So I just want to point out that is, I am sure we're going to see some of those. I would just guess in the 500 plus pages that there will be some sorts of growing pains with the ERP.
Right. And there'll be some explanations in the different sections that talk about this fund was maybe consolidated with over a couple of things. So we'll try to make sure we point that stuff out as we go through the process. Very good point. Thank you.
I think what Commissioner Snyder is maybe also getting to for budget committee members, new and returning, please ask any question. Because if you're wondering a question or you're not sure, is that really what it means? If you're wondering that, someone else may be wondering that too. So please know that whether it is with a mic asking that or just pulling a staff member aside saying, I'm not even sure how to ask this question, please use us also as a resource because I know it can be a lot of new information too, and I know sometimes for me when I see new information I need to sometimes verbally process it to get my thoughts straight.
Commissioner Fye does have her hand raised. Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Brent. Tanya, I just wanted to answer the question you asked if the folks on the Zoom had any questions. This is my way of showing some signs of life on Zoom and say, no questions. You're doing great. I've been following along the presentation and conversation.
If there's no more questions.
Melissa?
So is there anything that you would like the budget committee to be doing for this next month before our orientation? Anything we could do to help us get ready when the book hits? That's legal and doesn't, yeah.
Well, for those that are returning, you kind of have a sense of what to look for, I think. For those that are new, you may not. And so just this update that we provide tonight, when we come back next month, we'll talk about budget law and provide a little bit more detail with some pie charts maybe to help show how big things are. And if there's other things that might interest you in the orientation that you'd like to see, you can let me know and we can try to include that as well. But as far as materials, our website, on the finance website, has all of the prior year budgets. If you really have a desire to look at the budget book from last year and some of the details, you can certainly do that. I can send the link out again. But I think just come with an open mind and just knowing that we're trying to do the best we can for our taxpayers and with the dollars and resources that we have.
I think that's a great comment, Melissa, that if you want to try and do some homework in advance, pull up last year's budget and nothing else, read the budget message. Now, that's not just a few pages.
It's riveting.
It's riveting. Tanya wrote it, so she thinks it's riveting. But no, but that's a good start. It'll give you some real insight as to where you need to start for this year's budget when you do get the book, because it'll take you a few hours before you even get to the numbers. Just to read, that's where you start, is the budget message.
Any other questions?
What are the individual expectations once we review? Are we allocated certain things that we're supposed to look at, or is it just general awareness and, our general opinions, or are we looking at specific sections?
So great question. We will talk during budget orientation what is the requirement of budget committee members. So hold that question for budget orientation. I will say bring your whole self, bring your perspective. You are a community member. You are here because your experience matters and your neighbor's experience and your perspective matters. So that is where be curious, ask questions, and just lean into the process. And we will talk more about the process at budget orientation. Then on April 27th, is that the date this year? Last year was April 28th, and it's like ingrained in my head, and now I'm having to remember a new date. April 27th, I will deliver a budget message at that meeting. And so that's the pages document that the chair had referenced and was recommended by Commissioner Willie to read that from this current year's budget. We will also at that meeting share overview how to approach the budget, and especially with the change in chart of accounts, because at that meeting you will be presented with your hard binder of the budget and you will go forth and review. So we want to make sure we give you an overview of how to approach that document. But please know that we are a resource as you are reviewing, and we are just email or phone call away too. Is that helpful? Okay.
It might be useful to at least send a link to the budget committee members of where to find last year's frequently asked questions so that they can see a sample of how folks have posed their questions in order to get better information. But the budget committee meetings will take us through each one of those functional areas as well in the Washington County Service District for Lighting budget committees. So seeing those presentations will help add to our level, or I have found that those presentations continue to add to my level of understanding. And maybe at the orientation, we can also talk about tips and tricks for trying to consume the budget. And I know I have picked different areas of the budget and read that in more depth from budget year to budget year. And then in other years, I read all of the functional areas, but I don't look at all of the number flow for all of the functional areas every single year. They're just different ways to approach it. Otherwise, it could be all you do for days and days. Who has that luxury?
So just for budget committee members, if you can just have this as maybe a to-do for our next meeting, we will make sure that we add this, and I'm looking at the team so they make note of this so I don't forget, thank you, that we'll just ask you what is your tip or trick in reviewing the budget so that we can help support our new budget members in the process. Because one of the things that I really value is this meeting and also budget orientation, because I learn from you what's helpful in how we present information or what questions that you have and how we can be better in service to you. So it's helpful from a staff perspective too to hear what's worked and also where we can do better as well.
I guess I can close this out. Thank you all very much for coming and for your work you're going to do to help us work the budget through the process. So I appreciate it. So feel free to reach out to me directly if there's any questions.
Once you sit down in those chairs, you can't get back. That's why I stay.